Right now, we just release the presence of the Lord in the Senate chamber. We just release the hovering glory of God Almighty in the Senate chamber.
Matthew 6:6 says, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father will give you a reward. Not like the heathens and the Pharisees who pray out loud so everybody can see them. Their reward is here. Understand that that's why they did that, so that they could get the reward of all the eyes of the idiots who follow them, to say, look how Christian they were. Oh my God, they did it for a vote. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Thank Ganja. It's Friday. Of course, I'm your host, Bruce Lively, and my illustrious, illuminated, well-informed, incomparable co-host, Laura Malcolm. How you doing?
Oh, TGIF. It's been a long one, but the week's gone by fast, but today was a long day, just personally.
Man. Well, I hope that we can make it more palatable for you, because I know we're going to have some fun. This week has been one of those, well, you know, what am I saying? This past 8 years has been one of those. Every day, it seems like every day lasts as much as it seems like it lasts a year. It seems like it's also too fast to even take in. But before we have too much fun, there's some really quick news that we got to get into. In Gaza, the Israel airstrikes hit Hamas leaders' son and grandchildren. Tell us about it, Laura, before we even move on further. And let's just start with that.
On Wednesday, now, the Israeli aircraft killed 3 sons of Hamas' top political leader in the Gaza Strip, striking high-stakes targets at a time when Israel is holding delicate ceasefire negotiations with the militant group. It's now been confirmed that the Israelis did indeed do this. It happened on Wednesday, and it didn't make most of the media until later in the day. It was confirmed by CBS and other news broadcasting stations, but I just checked the latest update today, and yeah, 3 sons and 4 grandchildren of Hamas top leader were killed in the area, a drone strike.
Yeah. So, I mean, we won't have to stay long on this, but I put out a little short about this a day ago or two. If you guys have seen it, you know, put a like on that. But here's the problem I have with this. Number one, there's the fact that I haven't seen much reporting on it in America is a problem. Right? I think that something that big you would see everywhere, but you kind of see everything else but that, and that's a problem. But the other side of that is, after you get caught or make a mistake by bombing food aid going in, right? And then you do this. These are all during the supposed negotiations that also, in the background, from everything that I've read and see, that these negotiations are heating up, are going well, are starting to at least produce some type of fruit. And every time that happens, the food truck gets bombed, then this guy's sons and grandchildren get bombed, and it's a mistake. It almost seems like you are trying your hardest not to have these negotiations. You're trying your hardest to get the response that you're getting, to ensure that the next terrorist attack or the next ridiculous thing that happens, you can blame it on them again and not come back to the table. And I have a real strong belief that this war that we're talking about in Gaza, people, and it's not some strange conspiracy theory, the war that's going on over there has a result that I think Netanyahu wants, along with certain other factions. I have something coming out about that. We're going to leave it here. But I have a feeling that when you hear people like Kushner talking about the waterfront being nice, when you hear people that used to be torn enemies coming together all of a sudden over finances, when you hear all about these things going on, like the Gulf corporations, I have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to say any more than that. It seems almost like every time they get close to something, there's a mistake, there's a bomb, and it's
another whoopsie.
Yeah. It's a whoopsie.
How many, like we said, how many friggin' war crimes is it gonna take? I mean, this is deliberate, what he's doing. There's no skirting around it. Let's not dance. He's doing this deliberately. It's a big F you to everybody.
Yeah. So I got something coming up, guys. We have a political drain, long form, one of my things with the glasses and all of that. I promise you, it's going to be good. I got something coming, guys. All right, let's go. Big Trump. I know we got some news about him. This week was crazy for him. Let's laugh. Let's laugh.
Lose, and lose some more. He lost his third appeal to delay his trial indefinitely because, he should be out there on a campaign trail instead of in a courtroom defending himself. He's got better things to do, man. And this last hearing was actually held in a basement lobby because the courtroom was in use. They were sitting around on a bunch of folding chairs.
I did not know this.
Near a restroom. New York's sick and tired of this shit.
Outstanding. I love it. I love it.
Oh my gosh! But it was instantly rejected. They barely had to even say a word, but it would have been exceptionally disruptive for the witnesses who made extraordinary efforts for the trial to start Monday. So, strap in, Donald.
Listen, I'm glad you're so optimistic. When I heard that everything was stricken down and all of this stuff, the first thing I'm thinking is, so it starts tomorrow? No, Monday. Well, I don't believe it. I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait. I don't know how this slick MFer, this greasy Vaseline ego, I don't understand how he gets out of these situations. I swear to you, if it was any one of us, we would have been under the jail years ago. So I hope that it works. I hope that this last loss works out. But I'm not gonna say it's gonna start Monday. I need to see it start. It has to start.
I hear that. Oh, I hear that loud and clear. But at least Alan Weisselberg got sent back to Rikers instantly too, right after he fired Alina Habba as his lawyer.
And she's fired twice.
Didn't help at all. Get your ass back in there, Alan.
I love it.
I don't know. I hear Donald is terrified, but yeah, I hear you. We'll see it when we see it, right? And down in Georgia, there was an effort by someone, Tiffany Johnson, who filed to run against the judge there, Judge McAfee, but she's disqualified because she didn't show up for an eligibility hearing.
Oh my God.
I mean, come on.
What is going on? This is what happens when stupidity is normalized, right? This guy has really just normalized stupidity. So literally the dumbest people or the most incompetent people said, I can do that. I can do that. I'm going to run too.
Yes.
I mean, this is where we are. Wow.
And Letitia James is in a position again to start taking his property away back. What is it? What do you call it? Reclaiming, repo, whatever it is.
Yes.
Because his fraudulent bond failed to cover his fraud. What is going on? Everything Trump touches
turns to an orange pile.
Dog shit splattering all over everybody while he's doing it.
Right. Everybody's in the path of it. They just got their mouth open. Yeah. They love it. They love it. Laura, they love it, man. What is going on?
Yeah,
Is that the theme of the day? Is that the theme? What is going on?
What's going on? So, well, Kamala Harris is really pissed, especially after the Arizona decision, and she's saying, "Oh, we got to make him own this.
Yeah.
Donald Trump did this."
I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land.
So let this be a lesson. First of all, the ridiculous media, the corporate media out there, says that Donald Trump draws a line in the sand or says what he thinks about abortion. He never said that. Because he never said that he would veto a full ban. What he did was say, I got you this, and this is how it is. They've taken the arc all the way so far right that even a 15-week ban somehow sounds moderate. But unfortunately, Donald Trump thought that all of those people, all of those fake Christians, all of those people who were using abortion as a cudgel, as a way to control women until they can put a leash and a muzzle on them, because that is what they want. It's been done before. He thought that they really meant it when they said states' rights. No, they didn't. See, he's under the opinion that he did something good for them, not knowing that they wanted more. And if he gets back there, please don't be deceived. He doesn't care either way. I think 10 years ago, he said he was pro-choice. He was pro-choice his whole life, actually. So if they tell him when he's in there, in order to keep power, he has to get rid of it all, he will. So don't be deceived. But yeah, all of the falseness. And Arizona, what's going on in there? I don't even know the full details.
Well, it's just, I mean, what can be said about it that people haven't already pointed out?
An historic ruling. Arizona's conservative Supreme Court has reinstated an 1864 law barring almost all abortions in the state. In its ruling, the court wrote, quote, physicians are now on notice that all abortions except those necessary to save a woman's life are illegal.
But it's a law that was written by one guy in the Confederate territory of what is now Arizona, which wasn't a state when this law was written, but somehow it applies to the Constitution of the Union now that Arizona is a state. Everybody I've listened to on television and online, and nobody can explain to me what they said or why they chose to go along with that law. Can you?
So you're under the impression that that matters to the judges. I will. Let me remind you. Let me remind you. There were judges who said for 50 years that it shouldn't go back to the states in the first place. But when you pay enough off, and when you elect enough people, and you give them enough cigars, obviously, and plane rides, right? They're fallible. And so the judges who they've been electing, because they've been voting uber Republican, the same judges who've been running on this nonsense, they're the law. And this is the problem. Did you see the people praying in the legislature when this happened?
Lawmakers prostrate on the floor of the Senate in Arizona, talking in tongues on their hands and knees, wailing and thrashing themselves,
weeping and a gnashing of teeth.
in this circle on the floor, like some weird heathen pagan ritually you'd see in a horror movie. It was freaky. I expected the snakes to come out at any minute, you know.
Let it be so, Father God. Let it be so. Let it be
Lord, right now we just release the presence of the Lord in the Senate chamber. We just release the hovering glory of God Almighty in the Senate chamber.
What was that? What's going on?
That was proselytizing. That's a show. That's a show. This is what it's become. And if I may, I'm going to take a few minutes here, but you're not really a religious person. That's fine by me. I, on the other hand, am a Christian people, and I'm going to look at the camera. To those who are wondering what that show of idiocy, what that absolute dark ages reference that you saw in your own house, Senate House or House of Representatives in Arizona, what you saw there was the exact same thing, if you're a Christian, that the Bible itself was against. And I'm going to give you a little bit of examples. Stay with me. I know it seems weird, but I do this, okay? When you're talking about prayer, if you're talking about prayer, Matthew 6:6 says, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father will give you a reward. Not like the heathens and the Pharisees who pray out loud so everybody can see them. Their reward is here. Understand that that's why they did that. All of the snake throwing, all of the who blah 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 tongues, and all of the circles inside of your political building was so that they could get the reward of all the eyes of the idiots who follow them. To say, look how Christian they were. Oh my God, they did it for a vote. They're doing all of that for a vote, and then they have to one-up each other for the next vote because I'm more Christian than the other person. Well, did you pull out a snake? Well, what about a fire? Well, who's speaking in tongues? Well, if they're speaking in tongues, let me spin around.
Oh,
they're devolving.
Man.
That's what's happening.
Not the same people that thought the eclipse was an apocalypse, an apocalypse.
All of it is a ruse. They don't believe that. You believe that. If you're a Christian and you believe that, you're the only one who does. You're the only one who does. I guarantee you they don't believe that. What they do know is that keeping you in fear, in constant fear, keeping you in constant vigilance that things are taken from you, that around every corner, the evil is in the government, it's in the sun gods. This is the problem. And the idea is, in order for you to believe that as a Christian you need to somehow take your country back, means you have to stop reading the Bible. You have to stop reading the Bible and be scared of everything. So they find a way to connect the broken bridge in Baltimore to the illegals coming to take your country. They find a way to talk about the moon passing in front of the sun and tell you that it has something to do with demons and has something to do with what's going on with the Democrats who are drinking blood, because if you're not always constantly in fear, you will wake up. If you're not always constantly in fear, you'll have time to sit back and think. Philippians 3:20 says, but our citizenship is in heaven, and from it we await a Savior. Luke 6:27 says, but I say to you, hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If you had time to read that and stop thinking about the sun, the Democrats, the snakes, the illegals, you would not be voting for them anymore. That's why they do it. That's why vaccines are bad. That's why illegals are at every corner, even though you've never seen one. That's why they're dancing and praying in Arizona, because the last time someone else did a little prayer and it was no longer good enough to keep your eyes flooded with bullshit. That's why. That's why, people. That's why. James 1 says, if anyone thinks he is religious but does not bridle his tongue, he deceives his heart. That's why they tell you who you need to fight back for. The country is being taken away from you. It's not your country if you're a Christian. You're here to oppose this country. You're here to bring people to the kingdom. Stop it. They're blinding you with fear. Stop it. Bridle your tongue. It's not okay to call Biden or Hillary Clinton a bitch. It's not okay to say fuck Joe Biden. Bridle your tongue. Understand what I'm telling you. Laura is not religious. I, on the other hand, am offended by the Christian nationalism, by this fake prayer in the open for unjust rewards. We're not going to talk about this all the time, but I'm going to tell you that when I see it, if you're a Christian and you're wondering what the hell is going on, that's what's going on. They're lying to you. They're taking your soul, your mind, your eyes away from you. 1984 Orwell is your next step. I'm done.
It's not just 1984, it's 1864 where that law came from. I mean,
Oh
they're going
my
to go back
God.
to the dunking stool. What do they call it? The dunking stool for mouthy housewives.
There's another
And
one
witch burning is right behind it. You know, for real, for real. It's incremental. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, guys.
Well, let's end this on some positivity from the Biden camp, and at least there's some new rules for unregistered or unlicensed gun dealers. This is going to force some more dealers to run background checks.
Nice.
But he's also announcing his plans to cut more student debt by 30 million 30 million more people by this fall.
My God, listen.
There's more to look forward to. And he's
That
been
is
meeting
awesome.
people.
Before that, he's already done more to cut student aid. I mean, to cut student loans. He's done more to get rid of student loans than any president in our history. So I'm really happy about that student loan thing. This is like the second time since we've started the show, and the show is only 2 months long. Guys, vote blue, man. Jesus, and your vote matters. Give us the Lawrence O'Donnell monologue. Let's end with that.
He just he said it brilliantly in every way that every vote you make matters, even if you don't think it does at the time.
Well, it's not Donald Trump who did this. It's the 63 million people who voted for Donald Trump and put the power of Supreme Court nominations in Donald Trump's hands for 4 years. And it's the 62 million people who voted for George W. Bush, or who volunteered for his campaign, or who helped out in any way, which meant that they indirectly voted for Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the opinion overturning Roe versus Wade. And it's the 49 million people who voted for George H.W. Bush, who indirectly voted for Clarence Thomas to serve on the Supreme Court, where he waited for decades to vote to overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, many of those Republican voters did not mean for this to happen. Most voters had every right to suspect that Donald Trump's position on abortion as a presidential candidate was just political posturing. He wasn't the first. George H.W. Bush and the Bush family were supporters of Planned Parenthood until George H.W. Bush had to change his position in 1980 in order to become Ronald Reagan's vice presidential running mate, forced by Republican politics, not by principle. To get in line with the party on abortion was Mitt Romney, who ran a losing Senate campaign in Massachusetts against Ted Kennedy, claiming to be to the left of Ted Kennedy on abortion and other issues. Then Mitt Romney won the governorship of Massachusetts, running with the identical position on abortion of every Democrat in Massachusetts. Mitt Romney was completely pro-choice as the governor of Massachusetts, and then when he ran for president as a Republican in 2012, he completely flip-flopped and became as anti-abortion as any other Republican. So when Donald Trump says, as he did this week, that the Republican position on abortion is just politics, he means it. But John McCain didn't either. During that campaign, John McCain was asked by a reporter if he would tell his then 15-year-old daughter that she could not have an abortion if she became pregnant. John McCain said, no, I would discuss this issue with Cindy and Megan, and this would be a private decision that we would share within our family. Obviously, I would encourage her to know that that baby would be brought up in a loving family. The final decision would be made by Megan with our advice and counsel, and I think that's such a private matter. Yeah, it is a private matter. All responsible people agreed with that answer. But that was not actually John McCain's position as a candidate, and that meant that John McCain was in favor of banning abortion for everyone except his daughter. They have always been posturing, and none of them ever wanted to deal with the reality of their position on abortion, which we are now dealing with, and the people of Arizona are dealing with tonight, having been thrown back to 1864 to live by a law written by one man who no one elected to anything, back when Arizona was a territory, a half century away from becoming a state. Make America great again now means make America great the way it was in 1864. And so reporters can and should hound Donald Trump on the campaign trail about the 5-year prison sentences that doctors and nurses and support staff and drivers are facing in Arizona now. But you should also stand outside George W. Bush's home in Texas and demand an answer from him. Is this what he wanted? Secretly, Republican politicians didn't want abortion to stop because then you wouldn't have to vote for them anymore to stop abortion. You wouldn't have to contribute money to their campaigns. You couldn't ask for a more powerful lesson in how much your vote matters and how long your vote matters. Your vote lives after you.
There's so many people who say voting doesn't matter. I would say those people who are now affected by that would beg to differ. I would say that the kids who have lost their parents because they were locked up in a border camp and their parents were sent home but they were left, they would disagree that it doesn't matter. And it's profound what he said, because it's that little bit of that vote lasts throughout history and has historical effects, man. We got to be out there voting. We got to vote. We've got to vote. We've got to vote for the sake of posterity, for the sake of history. Listen, we're winning the fight. Trump is losing like a loser.
Loser, loser.
So, be vigilant. Vote. I'm out of here.
Peace out. TGIF.
Thank Ganja, it's Friday. Smoke one for me, guys.
So we're about to take off to head to Philly, but I just want to comment on the former president yet again declaring how proud he is of his responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. He yet again said he's proudly responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. And one has to ask, proudly responsible that 1 in 3 women of reproductive age now live in a state with an abortion ban? Proudly responsible that doctors and nurses can now be jailed in some states for life for providing care? Proudly responsible that states have passed bans with no exception even for rape or incest? And let's all be very clear, if he were to be put back in a position where he could sign off on a law, he would sign off on a national abortion ban. Let's be very clear about that. And that obviously makes the contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump quite clear. We are very clear, and Joe Biden has been clear. If Congress passes a law reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden will sign it into law. So we protect and we believe in a woman's decision and ability to make a decision based on what is in her best interest, not having her government tell her what to do. And we are proud of that position. Thank you.